And welcome back. Today we continue with Chapter 2 of Peter J. Martin's Twixt the Stone and the Turf, an understanding of Gaelic strength and stone lifting. Peter Martin writes that, quote, "The reality of the language of Gaelic strength in the modern era has in many ways been subjected to a simplification," end quote. And nowhere is that clearer than with the term clach ultach. Martin paints this incredible contrast. He says, imagine traveling through Scotland, searching for the stones. First, you arrive in Royal Deeside. You meet a man in full Highland dress who passionately tells stories about Clachhuid Fear, the manhood stones. He looks the part, sounds the part, but when asked to explain the Gaelic itself, he can't. Then you travel to Northoost. No tartan, no performance, just an older islander in worn work clothes who grew up inside the living Gaelic tradition. Someone whose stories of strength come from fathers and grandfathers and not tourism brochures. And when asked about Clachhuid Fair, Martin writes, quote, "A blank stare will develop in front of you," quote. Because in that living Gaelic culture, the stones were known instead as clach ultach. And this is where things get fascinating. The word ultach doesn't translate neatly. It's one of those deeply descriptive Gaelic words, layered with meanings. Dwelly's dictionary defines it as burden carried within the fold or grasp of the arms, armful. It can also mean lapful, load, bundle, fit to be carried on the back. Martin explains that the Gaels didn't think in standardized weight measurements the way we do now. No one cared whether a stone was exactly 312 pounds or 347 pounds. Instead, the language described the experience. He puts it perfectly. Quote, "A clach ultach is a bloody big stone because it is wide as your arms," end quote. That line honestly says more about the traditional stone lifting than any spreadsheet ever could. And over time, misunderstandings crept in. A modern interpretation of ultach became arm's length, which sparked massive arguments about famous stones and famous lifts, especially in Northoost with Ultach Domel Mor. There's a plaque claiming the stone was lifted to arm's length overhead, but Martin warns against reading that through a modern gym lifting lens. He says clearly, quote, "It is not a Gaelic overhead press," end quote. Instead, it's another example of loose, descriptive Gaelic language evolving over generations. What's also interesting is that most known ultach stones aren't neat lifting stones at all. They're massive, irregular boulders, usually over 300 pounds, and traditionally, the goal wasn't necessarily to fully lap or shoulder them. Martin writes, quote, "The expected lift is simply a lift to the extent where the wind is put underneath the stone." End quote. And now back to the table. Welcome back to the Stone Table Podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Innes. If you spent any time in the world of stone lifting, you know the person that we're talking to today. Today's guest is someone who has played a massive role in the change and approach to stone lifting for a lot of people, myself included. He's lifted historic stones across Scotland, Iceland, and I'm sure I'm going to miss a whole bunch of other places he's been. He's brought lifters from all over the world into this culture through tours and events. Last year alone, he went on 32 stone tours and has created over the last couple of years over 20 new sites. He's helped shape what modern stone lifting is becoming. But for me, as I said, it's also very personal because he's not just someone that I've watched from a distance, although that's how it started at first. He is my coach and he is my dear friend. And he's someone who has challenged how I think not only about stones, but about my mindset. If you followed him, you know he has strong views. He's a strong man. He's a stone lifter. He has views on what's happening in stone lifting, what's being lost, and what we need to protect. He's not just talking about it, though. He's building it, he's creating access, and he's advocating for women in this space. and at the same time asking the hard questions about where this is all going. So today I'm putting him on the spot, asking him all the questions that I'm sure you as an audience would love to ask him. And it's getting to understand the man behind it all. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here, finally.
It's so great to be here. As we start off, as always, what are you drinking today?
Oh, I have a very large pink gin.
That's amazing, because that's what I have too. And I knew that if you were going to drink anything, because you're not a big drinker, but if you were going
I
to
don't
drink it,
drink,
that
but
yeah.
Gail's got me into the pink gin somehow, and I like it.
And I knew that that's what you would choose. So sláinte.
So, Slange,
I have
what is
two
it?
because
Cheers.
I felt like it was going to go long today. All right. So for those that are new to the space or new to following you, or maybe even not so new, you are a strongman originally, powerlifter, bodybuilder, and you've always said to me, strongman is what I am, but stone lifting is my passion. Can you just tell folks? I mean, I'm sure most people listening know who you are, but just kind of give us a bit of a backstory into who Jamie McGregor is.
Well, I don't know where to start, really. I've always been very, very sporty minded. I've always been into sports and strength sports. I lifted my first weight when I was 14, and I've forgot to put them down. I've just never stopped, really. So that's what, I mean, what's that? 36 years I've been lifting now, without sort of any massive breaks. When I first started out, I was really just, I wanted to, I'm like everybody else, I wanted to have the big arms, be like Arnie and that kind of thing. So I was really just, I suppose I was cosmetically into a bodybuilding when I started, right through until I was probably late 30s, even 40. When I found strongman, I stumbled into strongman, well, not by accident, but I went to watch my friend compete in a novice comp, and the organisers had a look at me and he went, "Oh, you're a bit of a unit. You should be doing this," you know. And I was like, "I says, well, I've never done it. I've not got any kit." So he's like, "I've got kit," and he gave me stuff, and so I just took part. And from that moment on, I was really hooked in the strongman side of things. So from there, basically, the next comp I entered, I won the novice comp, and then I signed up for Scotland's Strongest Man. I just thought, right, we'll go and compete with the best and learn, be a knowledge sponge, and just absorb. And that's where I've been. And we're here 65 comps later, 10 years later. So how stone lifting came into the scene was one of the Scotland's Strongest Man competitors I was competing with. He had a picture on his profile of an egg-shaped stone on his shoulder. And I was like, what is that? I was curious. So I asked him, and he's like, it's the Darwinny stone. And I was like, the Darwinny stone, never heard of it. And he told me, about where it is and things like that. So me and Gail were going north to the Highlands for a weekend, and it was the middle of winter. I thought, I'm going to stop at Darwinny. I'm going to find this stone and lift it. And that's what I did. But it didn't go as well as I thought. Well, I did. I shouldered it first time, but my first lift. But it was literally welded to the ground because it was -6 and it was covered in ice. And I hurt my neck and everything. I had a pure sore neck because it was sitting on my head like this.
Oh my God.
So I had no clue, basically. But I was hooked. So a couple of weeks after that, I went looking for the Wallace Putting Stone, which is only like 20 minutes from my house. But I couldn't find it. So I went back armed with more information and found it, and sort of put that to my shoulder, and then that was it. I was hooked. I'd found Peter, by that point, I'd found Peter Martin's work, and I just decided I was going to lift all of Peter Martin's stones and just take it from there. So I've just been stone lifting the last 10 years, really, and I've never stopped, It's just kind of, It's what I said before. Strong man. Well, a strong man is what I am. Is what I see myself as. It's what I see myself as. But my passion is really for the Stones. So there you have it. That's me. That's brought me pretty much to. It's brought me a lot of joy, a lot of friendships, a lot of memories, man. Millions of memories.
Yes.
I've seen some wonderful places that people don't normally see, and not just in Scotland, and England and Ireland and Iceland, and hopefully next year it'll be Sweden as well as Iceland with yourself, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, maybe.
I've not. By the way,
Yeah.
I've not told Gail that,
Oh,
but
okay.
you just found it.
Gail, it's really important. It's an important trip.
Bex wants to go and lift the Visiafel. So
That's fine, I'll come.
Gail said she'll come with.
Perfect. So that was 2016, and I just had Andy Carney on, and he obviously was a huge impact on you too. You saw him, lifting all the various historic stones early in your strongman journey, and fantastic guy. But as normally when I do these shows, there's this long introduction and we just talk about like who who it is behind, but I'm not giving you that today, Jamie. We're going straight into
Right.
straight into the heat of things.
No worries.
Yeah. So you and I talk daily, multiple times a day, and you said to me, sometimes I think that I'm slightly I have different views on stones. I might be a little bit misunderstood. What do you think are some of the biggest misunderstandings that folks have around stone lifting?
Well, I think there's a difference. First and foremost, from the time when I started, there's a difference with people coming into it then and people coming into it now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that difference is that a lot of the people that are coming into stone lifting now, they don't know about the history, really. That's what it comes down to. What they're seeing, they're maybe seeing somebody else's Instagram post of lifting a stone, which will not have a narrative attached to it about the history of the stone. But we'll get into that later because that's a big bugbear I've got. But so what they're thinking is it's basically a piece of gym equipment, but old school, and I'm just going to go and lift it. They're not knowing. They don't really. I'm generalising, obviously. There are people, I'm just saying a lot of people don't know why they're lifting it in the first place, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. A lot of people think, oh, this guy shouldered that, or this guy lifted that to chest. I'm sure I can get that to shoulder. And they're not thinking about the people that came before or where that stone's came from or its history or who's had their hands on it or things like that. But when I started, that was all I was thinking about, really. And I know others that started before me were the same and started after me. But there seems to be a change in dynamic. I don't know if it's maybe just because we're a lot more social media based now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot more people coming into it now. So that all I'm seeing is perhaps that negativity, negative part of it, you know? Maybe I'm just seeing it more because it's there more in my face, if you know what I mean.
Well, and they're also with it more in your face, more people are doing it. But I mean, I have sat with this, a while myself, is that, and I've said to myself, is the community going to lose this plot if we're not careful? Because we want to obviously encourage people to embrace stone lifting, to understand the history and all of that and protect it, but we want to expand both of that, and you're trying to do both of those. And I just wonder how you do that. Like, how do you continue to promote the history of it and protect that, so that the stone lifting community doesn't lose the plot?
Well, it's quite simple for me. What I would call the stewards of the stones, if you like, people like myself, yourself, they don't have to be in Scotland. You know, they need to teach. It all comes down to teaching, really. It comes down to being visible these days on social media and putting on sort of, not just the correct lifting technique and things like that, but the importance of protection of the stones and things like that. But it can't just be one or two men or one or two people that do it. It's got to be everybody that does it.
Hmm.
And that's the only way I feel that we can protect the stones is by everybody that has an invested interest hammering it, hammering that message through social media. Because social media is a bad thing, as well as it can be used for a good thing in this case. And there's other avenues like obviously the magazine, that's Stone Lifting magazine, for example. I've done a few sort of articles on that about etiquette and things like that. Well, I'm going to be doing a wee BBC documentary shortly, which we're filming actually tomorrow, but I'll not go into that. But I'll be mentioning about proper lifting technique, and I'll be sharing the history of the stones we're lifting and things like that. It's just about teaching people, but as I say, the seasoned stone lifters and the people that have a vested interest in it need to share that. What we're seeing a lot is, well, what I'm seeing a lot, particularly in Scotland, is so people might be out on a stone tour, for example, and the first thing they want to do is put all their lifts, on Instagram or whatever, the gram when they get home. But you rarely see, let's say they were at the Fianna Stone, for example, just an example. You very rarely see anybody lifting saying the Fianna Stone's history. They
Hmm.
just say,
Hmm.
I was lifting the Fianna Stone, I got it to my shoulder or whatever, and it was beautiful in the glen, blah, 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 blah. But
Of course,
they're not,
The Glen is beautiful.
they're not passing on that history though,
Yeah.
and that needs to happen regular.
Maybe that should be a requirement. If you're going to post a historic lift on Instagram, you need to at least put a couple sentences about the history of the stone. And I
Yeah,
mean, I'm probably guilty for that myself,
we're all
maybe.
guilty of it. I'm guilty of it now and again, but if you back through my feed, you will always see, maybe once a week or something, a post about a history of a stone or something like that, because they come up, particularly they come up on my memories and I just repost them. So,
Yeah.
you know, you learn about the history that way. But we're getting a lot of influx of people that are coming on the back of other people's Instagram and things like that, social media, which, they don't have the knowledge. When I was starting, it was about, I was researching, you know, to understand why I was lifting, why I was doing, or it fascinated me as well, and it fascinated me the thing about, when I was walking up to a stone, maybe for the first time, I'd be like, "Wow!" You just wonder whose blood or DNA is on that stone,
Hmm.
from how long ago, how many people have lifted it, that kind of thing. That was the kind of thing that fascinated me. It wasn't so and so lifted it to their chest. I'm going to lift it to my shoulder just to be better than them. That kind of thing.
Yeah, and we're kind of hitting on something between the difference between someone who lifts a famous stone once and someone who lives the culture year after year. I mean, you've lifted these historic stones more times than anyone. And what what does that give you? Like what does that how is that different for those that just come, lift it once and, kind of be done with it, to you that like kind of lives and breathes? It's almost like a practice for you because you don't, well, and we'll get into this later, but you don't train specifically for stones. Your belief is that, strength is the number one um focus, and then stones are it comes after. But what is the difference between you versus and others that have lift them, multiple times, but that lift them almost as a practice?
Well, I could sum it up in one word for you: passion.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody comes and lifts a stone, what, say hi, bro. Hi, bro. Who's that?
Hey, bro.
If somebody comes and lifts a stone once and never goes back to it, then are they really passionate about stone lifting? I would question that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, that's a generalisation of sorts, because there's factors. People are coming from other countries. It's not practical. Maybe come here often, so they might, which is fine. But I do it because I'm passionate about it, and I love doing it, and I love. It's just kind of. I didn't set out to do hundreds of stone tours. It just kind of happened, and I love taking people on the stone tours and seeing them, helping them achieve their goals, and you know, and seeing how excited they get, and all the rest of it. The results of that's the reason why I do it, really.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on a few stone tours with you now and achieved things that I never thought possible because of the way the stone was placed, or just kind of the coaching that you've done along with it. But are the tours, because you're pretty much out every weekend doing, or twice a weekend,
Well,
Saturday and Sunday, doing stone tours? Is it about access, education, a bit of both, being a steward?
I think all of the above, all of the above. I, as I say, I enjoy taking people, from all over the world, really, and meeting them and meeting new people. As I say, I've made many friends through the stone tours, not just the stone tours, through the competitions that I run, and it's about the people, about the places, and about the stones. That's that.
I've had the luxury of having a one-on-one stone tour with you. And then I had, we went with my friends and this other couple joined us. And he was a strong man. He really didn't know the history. So you were teaching him as we were going. And, he was really open to that. But has there ever been a point where their motives were just so wrong?
There has been people that their motives are wrong. They just need to
Yeah.
learn.
Hmm.
It's a learning issue. There's definitely been people that their motives are wrong. They just want to, people that just want to. There's been people on stone tours that I've done that just feel that it's man versus man, not man versus stone. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
And that's a problem.
Hmm. Yeah, or the checklist. Although that being said, I was talking to you about my stone goals the other day, and so I do have a list of stones that I do want to lift, but it's a checklist more so to be part of the history, like to be part of the stone's history rather than as an object of, hey, I've achieved this, I've accomplished this. I guess what the main thing is that you're trying to do both. You're trying to educate, you're trying to promote, and you're trying to preserve all three things through the stone lifting tour. And so at first, talk to me about, I know you took some heat for this when you created some new sites that weren't the historic stones and you created new modern stone sites. And maybe it wasn't heat, but people were like, why are you doing this? Like these aren't the historic stones. Can you explain to folks why it's so important that you've created these additional, I think it's 20 now, but it might even be more because I think I
It's
saw
more
that
than
you
20.
added one another. Yeah,
It's about 20. It's about 20. I don't even know. It's about 25, I
yeah.
guess. But so, right, okay. There's a number of reasons why. But one reason that people don't actually think about, and it was one of my main reasons, was okay, for talking sakes, let's say we've got 35 historic stones in Scotland, right? Now, with the influx of people that are coming to lift those 30, if it was only 35, no modern stones, the influx of people that are coming are in the thousands. So these stones would take an absolute battering. But if they have 125 to pick from, rather than 35, then it spreads the lifting load over the year. So the historics aren't getting battered as much. So it was initially a way of protection of the historic lifting stones. Another method to protect the historic stones. That was the first thing in my head. The second thing was the historic stones are out of the reach of most women, average women, we'll say. And I didn't feel that was very fair. So a lot of the sites that I've created, I've got, maybe a small stone, kind of a bit like Iceland, where you've got an Amlodi, a half sterker and a full sterker. That kind of thing I thought be quite appropriate here, because there's a lot of women wanting to lift the stones, and there's a lot of women that have been lifting the stones as a result of that. But if it was just the 35 historic stones, then you're lucky if there would be, 3 or 4 maybe that women could lift. With the exception, with the exception, average women I'm talking about that are maybe a bit too scared to actually go and do it,
Mm-hmm. How many women have you had on your stone tours as a result of this, would you say? Or how many women do you think have...
I don't count. I don't
No.
count people. A lot.
No, but I mean, we were going to talk about this a little bit later in the episode, but hey, it's come up now.
Okay,
Let's talk.
what I will say is, when I put up a stone tour, like for example, all last year I done monthly stone tours. No, it ended up being like three every month.
Yes.
But anyway,
yes.
I would have one main stone tour a month where I would put it on my social media as an open invite to everybody. Now, on every stone tour, there would be 3 or 4 women there, or certainly a woman, So, I think what's happening is they're getting, obviously, word of mouth and stuff, so women that weren't confident enough before have been coming. I've noticed that a lot. And then, they're going away buzzing because they didn't think. Gail's a prime example.
Exactly. It took her long enough.
Gail's not a lifter, but she's came a couple of stone tours and she's been able to lift. Gail came to Iceland and lifted the half Attic gear, so she would have got a job on the boat, wouldn't you?
Yeah, let's talk about women in stone lifting, because even just my story, and I'm sure that it's replicated for many women that you have had chats with or conversations with or introduced. At first, I had come to you, we were going to do the Ardblair stones, and there you go, that was it. And had no idea about the historics at all. Like, not not a clue. And you said, if you're coming over, let's just throw in the historics and do some natural stone lifting as well. And there, as much as this community is amazing and it is collaborative and expanding and positive, there are still some folks that think that women shouldn't be lifting the historic stones because they're manhood stones. Let's just talk about that for 1 minute, and the origin of the manhood stone. The fact that it actually is not the terminology. Can you give us a brief tutorial on that,
Right.
Jamie?
Okay, the term manhood stone is only really associated to a handful of stones in Scotland. So the term manhood stone is to bring, or was to bring, a boy to manhood if he could lift the stone a certain height, or onto a plinth, depending on where it was, or whatever the clan chief had decided. To become a man, they had to do that strength trial. But there's only like half a dozen or so, from my memory, of the historic stones that are currently available for lifting that have any manhood associations to them. It's not, a lot of people think, they hear the term manhood stones and they associate it with every single lifting stone, you know? And that's just not the case. It's just a term that was made up really to describe a handful of stones. Although at the time it would have been a lot more, but obviously a lot of them are lost to the time and all that. So that's another story. So, as I say, it was a practice to bring a clan member from boyhood into manhood. But it wasn't a blanket across Scotland. That was what happened everywhere, and I think.
No, and so I think, making that correction is that when we refer to the stones in Scotland, what would you say is the proper, like, if you're referencing, I'm going on this stone tour or on social media, what is the proper way to reference them?
Well, it's not Clathfluid Fir, I'll tell you that. Because that was, they were never, there is no record of that in Gaelic. Sort of history is referring to the Scottish Stones. That came later. That was a kind of made up Gaelic name. The thing is, you can't even call them Clathnear. Most people would call them Clathnear, but Clathnear, again, only has associations to some of the lifting stones. You've got Clachthogalach, Clachultach, Clachduchain, Bodach. There's loads of different names, Birdbag. I could go on, but
Yeah.
the problem is a lot of the stones had different names back in the day to relating to each area they were from, Like Clachduchain, for example, was specifically to an area.
Yeah.
And Clathnear, ironically enough, means, well, I think it's putting stone in it. But yeah, you've got Clathfluid Fir in your thing up there.
Yeah, I was just like, what do I have up there?
I think that was some Canadian that made that up.
Us Canadians have done a few things in stone lifting, good and bad, over there.
Don't get me started there. I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
No, that's funny that you're saying that, because I'm like, what the hell did I put? Okay, yeah. No, okay, so that's good to know. But so obviously we're trying to promote women in stone lifting, and you're a huge believer of women lifting the historics. Why does it matter, Jamie? Like
Well,
why?
It matters because, right, if you look at it in the past, okay, look at it at clan times, women just simply didn't lift the stones in Scotland, all right? Barring one or two. Was that a cultural reason? Was it a strength reason? Who knows? But if you look at women now, the women now are stronger, in my opinion, than the young men of the day. So why should they not be able to practice lifting? Because at the end of the day, if women are into strength, sports, if you like, for want of a better terminology, they should be able to practice it. And the evolution of strength is such that some of the women now are lifting, well, as you'll have seen some amazing lifts that would, you're like, holy moly, man, So why not? Why not get a chance, get a chance to showcase your strength or try and improve your strength or do whatever the men's doing, just the exact same thing.
And do you think that the stone culture has treated women kind of more like visitors or rightful lifters, or maybe it's been a bit of both, depending
I
on?
think it's probably depends who you talk to on that one. I think it's a bit of both. Well, put it this way: see, whenever I go a stone tour, everybody encourages everybody.
Mm-hmm.
The encouragement is phenomenal. That's one of the greatest things. And it doesn't matter who's there, whether it's a female, a male, a teenager, an old man, whoever. The encouragement is always there. That's my experience. But, there are perhaps more traditional elements of the stone lifting community that want to keep things traditional.
Yeah, I mean, even through the posting that I've done, or like especially on my public pages, like I've had comments about very misogynistic comments about me lifting stones, uh, that I, because I'm promoting women in it and that I'm saying that they're for everyone, that really I'm just creating, I can't remember what the language was, but that it was just, you know, I shouldn't be doing it. Like I shouldn't be, it should just be about the stones and it shouldn't be about getting women into it. So what would you say to that, those kind of folks, or any
Well,
old
I
school
would just
lifters?
refer you back to your own statement there. Part of it. It's all about the stones. It doesn't matter who's lifting them. That's it. If somebody wants to lift them, go and lift them. If you fail, get stronger and go back. Doesn't matter if you're male or female. Unfortunately, basically what you get in with such an, and particularly in Scotland, I'm referring to Scotland here, we're getting such an influx of people from all walks of life lifting the stones. So if you get 1,000 people coming to lift the stones, 10% of them are going to be arseholes,
Yeah.
at least. And a further 10% are going to be misogynistic arseholes. It's just maths, you know?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's still a lot of misogynistic men about, and you know. But I think I think on a positive note, it's getting better. I
Hmm.
think it's definitely getting better because there's more men that are saying, "No, hang on here, you're being out of order here." You know.
What about though? What's the difference then between inclusivity and like watering it down, like watering the whole like stone lifting culture down? I mean, there's so many different. There's me who wants to get any woman, any person involved in stone lifting, and so if you lift, in my view, if you lift a 20-pound stone, a 30-pound stone, a 50-pound stone, a 200-pound stone, it doesn't really matter. But then there are kind of traditional, I think, traditional purists who are like focused solely on stones of strength and kind of the more infamous and famous stones. Is there a danger between inclusivity and watering things down in the stone community?
So some people would say that by placing so many stones, you're confusing people with to what's historic and what isn't. But my view is, as soon as you place, lift, and name a stone, it's this is just my personal view. It's historic because
Hmm.
its lifting history has started. Doesn't matter to me if it's 5 years old, 50 years old, 800 years old. Even the 800-year-old Fianna had to be lifted for the first time. Its history started some point along the line. So why can't we continue that? Because we're part of culture. We're part of modern culture. So I believe the term historic lifting stone refers to a stone's history, not the age of it. And that's how I've always felt. I mean, you can look at, let's look at the Glen Lewis stone, right? It probably receives one visit a year, maybe two. All right. So compare that to Big Rusty, for example, who's a modern stone
Hmm.
that receives maybe 40 visits a year, 50 visits a year by me, and then the rest. You get where I'm going with this?
Yeah, yeah.
So who's to say that Big Rusty's not a historic lifting stone? Because it's got more of a history, more of a linear lifting history than the Glen Lewis stone has.
Okay, so I've always wanted to ask you this question. So, as you know, I have my garage, it has all my
Oh
stones
no.
in it. Yeah, no, I'm going to ask you it because, and you always tell me the truth. So, I expect nonetheless here. But so you'll see many stone lifters, they have their garage, they do it in the gym, they have, you know, obviously in Canada, the climate is such that we only get about 4 or 5 months a year we can actually go out stone lifting. But what are your thoughts on
That's because you're
and
not hard enough.
well, I am going to be moving to Scotland for my retirement, so you're going to have to deal with me at least 3 or 4 months of the year. But what are your thoughts on the gym stones and gym lifting kind of coinciding and creating your own stone gym? Like, does that take away from it?
Well, here's my right. Okay, I think I know where you're going with this. So, for me to place a lifting stone somewhere, right,
Mhm.
it's got to have at least one of three things, right? A beautiful location, a historic location, or a beautiful stone.
Mhm.
It can't just be in your garage. That's a training tool,
Yes. Yeah.
all right? That's the difference. A lot of the stones, most of the stones that I've placed have at least one of those things, probably more. Some of them have all three. Like, I'll use Big Rusty's again. It has all three. Beautiful stone, beautiful location, historic location.
What was the first location that you did, Jamie?
The first location that I did was, but well, it was the Sheriff Muir
Oh, okay, Sheriff Muir,
on
and
the
that's what
track.
it started all. And what year did you put that in place?
Don't know.
I mean, it's a
I can't
hugely
remember.
popular destination.
I think it was 2000. I'm going to say it was during COVID or run about then. The Wallace
And
Putton Stone had been broke the year before because the Wallace Putton Stone was kept.
why? What was the trigger for you starting to place these? And I know that part of it we've
Well,
discussed already was
the trigger for the Sheriff Muir stones was that the Wallace Putton Stone had been broken. That was one of the Sheriff Muir stones. That was the only remaining lifting stone, or the only remaining lifting stone at the site. See, the 95 is historic, but that was further down. That had been dragged away by, it was agriculture, if you like. But I knew from an article that in the Dunblane Traditions, which was a book, that there was an arc of 7 stones there, with the Wallace Putton Stone being the heaviest lifting stone, and obviously the Wallace plinth. So it was actually an article I came across. It was a rare article actually by Peter Martin about some things he would like to see happen before he passed away, and one of them was the uprighting of the plinth at Sheriffmuir. So I just done it. I went up there with a shovel one night,
by
shovel
yourself.
over the shoulder.
By yourself, Jamie.
It was by myself in the pouring rain. I went up there with a
Oh
shovel
my
and I
god.
thought, right, this thing weighs about 350 kilos or something like that. I dug a wee hole
Oh,
the size of it and I kind of lifted it into place and it's been there ever since.
and so was it that sparked something? And like, and then you were like, I'm going to create all these other
Well,
ones.
that kind of became a huge success.
Yeah, it is. I mean, so
It's
many
probably
people.
it's the biggest success in the sort of modern stones, and I think it's because it's so accessible to so many people because there's a different range of stones there. But on the back of that, and it became I didn't initially start placing stones. I just placed that because I wanted to honour Peter Martin, um, and it wasn't just me. I got help. Mark Sheriff's helped me. Chris Beeferman Beefy initially helped me get a couple of stones up there, and we went up there, and but I just kind of snowballed onto the 7 stones, and um, I didn't place stones for a good couple of years after that. I just went about lifting. So I was more focused on lifting every single of Peter Martin's stones, including all the island stones. So I was more focused on that. But I can't even remember the stones I placed after that. Oh, I came across during COVID. We came across with me and Gail. We were only allowed at the time. You were only allowed to drive 5 miles from your house.
Mhm.
So I thought, right, I'm going to make a couple of wee mini stone tour here.
Oh my
So
goodness.
we came across at that time during COVID. We were a walk along by the Logie Kirk,
Mhm.
and there
Oh,
was, oh
okay.
man, there was this absolutely beautiful stone sitting there. I was like, that has got to be a lifting stone. That is a river stone. That has not came from here. That has been put there. And I was adamant this must have a history because there's a lot of history there at that area. And there used to be, I'd done a lot of research and there was a standing stone there at one point across the path. I'm thinking, this is going to be a part of that, you know?
Mhm.
But
And which stone is that you're the heaviest one you're
no,
talking about?
the 145.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a beautiful stone. It's one of the nicest stones there is.
Well, I know
Um,
when I was over last, we added a new stone
yeah, yeah.
to that one.
So
Uh,
although I didn't place that, it just became a very popular lifting stone. And then obviously I had the Sheriff Muir and Beefy had found the harvesting stone, which was up. He had went a walk up the hills and there was the harvesting stone. So he had found also the Glenocco stone, the big triangular stone. So I was looking at the map, the geography here, going, well, I've got something of a wee loop going on here. So I just added to it by the Clan McRae stones, and then the Glendevin stone, and then you've got a right loop right around the house. You could do it all in 4 hours. It's class.
yeah,
And
we
then
did that. It's
the
beautiful.
number 9 stones at the
Mhm.
you've been there.
Yep.
That was a pile of stones. That actually happened because I found the 145 as I was out walking the dog, and I thought that is so similar in shape to the Dritvik full staircase stone. I thought I need to lift this because I'm going to Iceland, you know.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of snowballed for there.
Now I know you don't probably favor your children, but which
Okay.
would be your favorite place that you've placed stones?
Oh. That's a difficult one. The one I enjoy going to the most that placed is is the Loch Foyle stone because it's so beautiful and so
We have
peaceful.
I don't think we've been there.
I don't know if you have. Isa Bennett lifted it off the ground. She's the only female that's lifted it.
Yes.
Yeah. Although that was a historic site, again, that had the monocle stone there originally. Remember? It was the monocle stone that sat there that was lost that I refound, that I rediscovered it. But because it's a haven for campers, the stone got burnt and a slither of it fell off. And so it had to be relocated uh, alongside the Pewterach.
Hmm.
But the site was just so beautiful that I had to put a stone there. So I had a beautiful stone that came from near Roslin Chapel, a bit of kind of red pinky stone that I put there. And yeah, that's probably one of my favourites for going to.
All right, and so not only have you done the tours and you've created these spaces, you've also done restoration. And let's talk about a bit about um, the Wallace and the Journess and how all of that came about and kind of where we are now. For those that haven't been
Right,
following, I mean, I know exactly where we are now with the Wallace and the Durness, both very important historic stones, and maybe you can give us some context for those stones as well. And we won't talk about the Canadian the that dropped the Wallace pudding,
right.
but
Well, for those that don't know, the Wallace Putting Stone was one of the oldest sort of recorded lifting stones in Scotland. And it sat up in Sheriff Muir at where the Sheriff Muir stones of strength is. Big Rusty was a direct replacement for the Wallace Putton stone because it was broken by a Canadian in 2009. We'll not go into that. It was broken, that's it. It was broken into 3 bits, 2 big bits and a wee tiny part. So the stone sat in James Graham, who at the time was I don't know what the word is. No, he ran the Old Man of the Stones website. So he's one of the caretakers of the Stones, if you like, or whatever it is you want. A steward of the Stones, sorry, is a better word. So James took the stone, was informed of the breakage, took the stone and put it in his garage. And then COVID happened, and the stone was pretty much not forgotten about, but it wasn't attended to. So I had contacted James on a couple of occasions thinking, we can get a stone repaired, because I've seen stones being repaired before. But obviously, it's not one man's decision at the end of the day. So I think James's initial opinion was it should become a monument and sit on a plinth at the site. That was his initial. But I was like, this stone can be lifted. This history can continue here, just under strict, sort of monitoring, if you like. So eventually, after a few years, James agreed to give me the stone. Then on the day he was meant to drop the stone off, he decided that he wasn't happy with things and that maybe a poll should go ahead. And I went, right, fine, you're right, it's not one man's stone. So we went ahead with that poll. The problem was it was a public poll. We should never have done it as a public poll, because what you got was every Tom, Dick and Harry, it was open to the general public, so people were commenting on it. They had no clue what they were commenting on. They were sticking that, Anyway, regardless of that, it was decided via the poll that yes, lifting should happen, but it needs to be controlled and under a very strict sort of model, if you like. So the stone was taken to McIntyre Masonry by myself in Bathgate, and it's prepared. It's back in one bit, and it looks minted. So I came up with the idea of 2 Wallace days a year, one at the start of the summer, one at the end of the summer. It was suggested to me that we do one of them at the old site, well, the site where the stone was originally. So that's what we're doing on the 5th of April. It's going to be the Wallace Putton Stone Day, day 1. And then day 2 will be at its new home at the Pewter, alongside the Pewter. So that'll be later in August. So
Do you have many people signed up for the first one?
it's full.
Oh my God. And what does that mean?
It's 24 lifters.
That's incredible.
But they're
And
only
all over the world, or Scotland, or?
Yeah, I've got most of them are from, well, I've got Scotland, England, Ireland. Is there anybody coming? I don't know if there's anybody coming from abroad yet. But so they will have to demonstrate with the 120 kilogram Sheriff Muirstone that they can lift his chest and put it down under control before they'll be allowed to lift the Wallace. Because there's absolutely no dropping allowed. And I've done demonstration lifts. If you want to wind it, fine, but you need to put it down. If you want to lap it, right, you need to put it down. You want to chest it, you need to put it down. No shouldering whatsoever, no pressing attempts or anything like that. It's just, once you go from here to here, the risk of droppage just is exponentially increased, and we can't have it.
And Jamie, why do you think it was so important to get it back into circulation rather than a monument?
Because its lifting history can continue. That stone has at least a 500-year history, probably 800, probably rival. That stone will probably rival the Fianna in terms of age. As a lifting stone, that is. So if we could put that back together, so that people can follow in that history. They can, be a part of that stone's history. That's why it sold out. Everybody wanted to do it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's important. And with regards to the Strathmore of Durness, it's one of the rarely visited stones in Scotland because of its location, basically. It's logistics more than anything for that stone. And its weight as well, it's heavy. When I first arrived there, was that 2021, 2020?
2020 was Cooper.
We were staying at the other end of the country, the other end of the top north of the country. And I says, "Oh, Gail," they were staying at near John O'Groats. And I says, "Gail, we'll just look, it's only there in the map. We'll just go and lift the Durness stone." It was a full day. Full day in the car. But anyway, she was cursing me. But anyway, we went there and we found the stone. Now, the Strathmore of Durness stone sits on a bed of stones, small stones. But somebody who'd been there before me had lifted it at the other side of the road and left it on the soft grass. And it was three. Now, bearing in mind, it probably only gets one visit a year. Maybe more now, but back then it was only getting visited. I think the previous lifter was 18 months before me. And he'd left it on the grass and it sunk. So there's just the top of it was sticking out. But unfortunately, as Morgan said to you, it's kind of a grit sandstone. So it's not the strongest. The water had absorbed into it and cracks had appeared due to ice damage. So that was back in 2020, 21. And I'd been back every year since to lift it and just look after it and make sure it's all right. So I always had in the back of my mind that this could be repaired as well. So I thought, right, I spoke to David McIntyre at the masonry and he was happy. So it's a 2-day stone tour to go there and back, So I thought, oh, well, it's my favourite part of the country. Let's do it. So I've done it twice in 2 months. Once to go and get it, and then once to take it back.
Well, I didn't understand until I was speaking to the average graft about the geology of that stone and how unique it is to that area. Like that was
Yeah.
super interesting, and his views on it. But that time in the stone lifting community was slightly divisive. There was a number of things going on. Is there anything that, this is not going to be the last time I think that we have to, well, I mean, I hope it is, but there may be other stones that we either locate or that maybe, need repair. Is there something that we learned this last time going forward on maybe how to do it differently?
So if you're talking about the process,
Yeah.
I would never do a public poll.
Yeah.
It would be within the stone lifting community only. I don't know if that's possible, how you do that, because there was people commenting on it that haven't even lifted a stone in their life. They don't even know what stones are. And things like that. So no, I wouldn't do it that way. But I think my next target in terms of I'm looking at the logistics of getting the Glenlivet done for a repair.
Whoa, that's cool.
That it would be a difficult one. You see, the Glenlivet it's lost its bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So the Glenlivet, they reckoned, was over 150 kilograms. But we don't know when. Probably it could have been 100 years ago that it lost the bottom of the stone. So it's smooth on the top and then very jaggy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got like porous holes in it underneath and things like that. There's no visible cracks and it's fairly solid granite, but it just got me thinking, and I probably need to speak to Morgan because he knows about these things. Maybe take Morgan a stone tour up there. But I was thinking we could maybe drive the 4x4s in, get the stone out, get it down to David and see what he thinks. And maybe if he could construct another base, so that the stone is kind of smooth. I don't know if it's possible. It's just thoughts I've got,
Mm-hmm.
about longevity going forward. because that stone, it lost the bottom, as I said, and then I was contacted, I think it was by Jamie Oates, who'd been there, and the farmers had been burning the heather, which they do regular, but somebody had left the stone on the heather, and it lost another 3 kilogram slice. So that stone has to be placed on its plinth when you leave, you know, no matter what. So I'm thinking that severely weakened, there must be something we can do there with that to protect its bottom, particularly on the underside of it.
And would you think another fundraiser for that, or like a GoFundMe, or?
No, well, the fundraising money, I've still got a lot of money from that in my bank account. The money's sitting by because we're looking at the logistics involved of putting another plinth into the field at Puterach. That's the ultimate goal, is to get another plinth in there. But it's a bit of a logistical nightmare and it'd be very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got the money for it. It's just, is it possible? We're still at the planning route for that. And it would have to happen in summer when the fields are dry, because the fields are a nightmare. So Lindsay and Nigel are up for looking at the logistics of that. That's where we're at there.
And I think this segues nicely into kind of the next little part that I want to talk about. Do you think that the stone lifting world needs more rules, more elders, both?
This is a hot topic. It's a topic that's actually arriving. It's not really in the public domain at the moment as such, but it's landed on my doorstep and a few others. It's caused a bit of, I don't know, just disagreement, I suppose is a better word. So, basically, some people are some people are looking at the possibility of UNESCO status for the lifting stones. Now, there'll be varying opinions on this. That's just a fact. But my opinion is, when you bring a professional body on board to manage the historic lifting stones, let's just say, for talking sake, we're talking about the Scottish stones, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you bring a professional body on board to manage these stones, instead of as well as the people that are invested in the stone, your lifters, your caretakers, your historians, you now have a professional body wanting their say in what happens with the stones. And I think it brings eyes onto the stones from more professional bodies like Historic Scotland or the National Trust, that kind of thing. And I think that's a bad thing. It's one step, for me, it's one step closer to museum pieces, particularly in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is because at least, I think, about half of the Irish stones reside within areas that are covered by the National Monument Service.
Mm-hmm.
Where in Scotland, there's maybe only one or two, like the Bear Van, for example, that are in kind of National Trust kind of areas, you know. I think the Irish have a fight in their hands at the moment with the National Monument Service. But that's not for me to just take a into. But I see, if you bring another professional like a body like UNESCO on board, it draws attention to what's happening here. You know, I don't think it's a good thing. It brings unwanted eyes, in my opinion.
And so, what is the purpose of having it? Like, what is it? Just to
That's a good
recognize them?
question. That is a very, very good question. I have no idea. I am
Okay.
still, I haven't really, I've reserved full judgment on it until I speak to Conor Heffernan. Now, Conor Heffernan is a professor from Ireland who's dealing with David Keown and the UNESCO status over there. Now, Conor's we've messaged each other back and forth. We've never been able to line up our schedules to have a chat, but we will. And once I chat to him and I find out more about it, then I'll make an informed decision on what I feel. But at the end of the day, I'm just one man. I believe that any decision on bringing on board any sort of professional body has to go to the body of the kirk, which is the whole stone lifting community, to make the decision, not just one person or two people. And that seems to be how it's been pushed. The narrative's been pushed in it is from one or two people.
Yeah, I saw the recent posts, and yeah, I was just trying to understand what the intent of, like, what are the benefits of doing it other than what we have already. I mean, you have you've created for Scotland, you've created the website, you've documented, we have tons of other websites that document the history, that teach preservation and all of that. So I just was trying to understand what are the benefits that come out of a UNESCO status. But
the benefits, from what I can make out, now don't quote me on this, well, this is from an Ireland perspective, from what I believe, is the reason they're pushing for UNESCO status there is because they've got a fight against the Monument Service. So if the stones came under the UNESCO heritage status, the Monument Service wouldn't be able to touch them.
right, because in Ireland, just a few months back, or maybe it was even half a year ago now, there was some issues with the government saying that you can't lift the stones, correct? Or you
Basically, as a result of a stone tour that was had a World's Strongest Man competitor on it, the Cloch Dies, which is I think it's a 2,000-year-old relic, which I've actually lifted. It was a beautiful small stone. That was dropped off the shoulder by somebody on that stone tour. And as a result of that being made sort of public on social media or whatever, the stone was then removed by the National Monument Service.
And I think that that's where all of the other kind of media around exposed to lifting more of the stones, and having them under that same kind
Yes.
of banner. Okay. You you actually mentioned the strongman. We've had many discussions about this, and your views are that you don't think. Okay, no, correct me if I'm wrong. I might misstate this, but you don't think that professional strongmen should be lifting the historic stones?
Unless they're genuinely interested. You see, I can only go on my past experiences of what I've seen, right? And for the most part, your professional strongmen are content creators. That's what they are. So they come to lift the stones for content creation purposes. They've hook in followers onto their YouTube to get money.
Mm-hmm.
They're not actually interested in the stones, because you see it all the time with, I don't know, world first press, world record this, world record that, or for fuck's sake, man.
Yeah.
And basically, I've yet to see a professional strongman that's genuinely interested. And it's the same for anybody that comes to stone lifting, not just professionals. You have to be interested in the history. You have to. I mean, you've got Eddie Hall coming to lift, for example, the Strathmore of Durness, and when his lift was brilliant, it was respectful as anything. But then he's talking about the stone. This is a Viking stone from. I'm like, oh, isn't it, mate? He's showing disrespect because he doesn't know about the history. He's probably just Googled it and went, right, I'll just, But that's just an example. But my experience has been that they're generally not respectful of the stones or the history.
Yeah, it's so dicey for me because, as you know, my view is to have everybody at the table, right? So whether it's
Yeah, I get that.
World's Strongest Man or
That's why your podcast is so successful, because it invites everybody, and it should remain that way, regardless of it.
if we had Jamie McGregor's 5 stone rule commandments, what would they be?
Both.
I mean, you and I talked about
No,
this one the other
history.
day, tacky. Can we talk about that? Actually, let's talk about that conversation we had
I
about
just want to
tacky.
get into my 5 commandments.
Okay.
Right, we'll come back to the 5 commandments.
Okay.
Tacky,
the
what
tacky.
about it?
Yeah, let's talk about that because
Well,
we all
Tacky's an absolute no-no on the historic stones, or any natural stone for that matter.
yes, we know this, but there are some folks like that you'll see at the Arnold's or you'll see in other places that use the tacky towels.
Yeah,
And
but
Jamie,
that's competition based. See,
yes.
you're bringing me neatly onto a point that has to be made. But on you go. I interrupted you. Sorry.
I wanted to talk about how that even tacky towel on a natural stone is not permissible.
And competition, who's to say it isn't permissible? You see, this brings me on to a point that needs making. Competition is different from historic liftings or natural stones out in the field, all right?
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons why I created the McGregor Games in the first place. In the back of my head at that time, there was no real competitions there apart from the dinner games at that point. So in the back of my head I was seeing people starting to treat the historic lifting stones as competition,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I thought, no, there needs to be another avenue here. So that was one of the reasons why I created the McGregor Games, so that people that wanted to lift natural stones in a competition-based environment could do it. But they had to understand that it's totally separate from going on a stone tour and lifting the natural stones. It's, it's just different, and it has to be, but there has to be an avenue for people that want to compete in stone lifting. So that's why I created that, or it's one of the reasons anyway. So who's to say that I wouldn't allow a tacky towel to be used on I wouldn't, but
No, I was
I
like, are
can.
you gonna allow us?
But I can if I wanted to,
Yeah. Okay. Damn.
But I would have, if I was ever going to do that, which I won't ever, because
Yeah.
I'm against it, but I would have the right to do that in a competition-based environment.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to explain to everybody that, it would just make things worse. It would make things people even more confused about what's allowed and what isn't. And if you can't lift them, if you need tacky to lift them, then you're in the wrong sport.
Go back to the gym if you want.
Go back to the gym, Gail said.
Yeah, scale. Okay, so no tacky towels, and there is a difference between the competitive stone lifting and the natural stone lifting. Sometimes I still have an identity crisis. Sometimes, Jamie, I'll be honest, between doing the competitive stone lifting and the natural historic stone lifting.
I think you're looking at it too deeply. I think you should just go and enjoy both.
Yeah.
Enjoy the actual experience. That's what I do,
Yeah.
It's all about the experience,
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to the 2 that you're well, I mean, you have got a ton coming up this summer, but you've got the one in May at the Bruce. You've got a whole bunch of other McGregor games coming up, and then you're organizing the Masters as well in September.
Yep. And competing in it too.
Yeah. So, okay, back to the five Jamie McGregor stone commandments. What would they be?
I had the first one, yeah. I forgot.
God.
Know your history. Know the stone's history. Research the stone that you're going to. Number one. Number two, respect the stone and respect that history. Number three, don't forget to enjoy it and be in the moment. You need to be in the moment because a lot of people are not in the moment. You know, they're too busy setting up their camera. Oh, right, yeah, I need to set up my camera, my tripod, and that. Is it the right angle? Is it this or that? But you're not really in the moment, you know. That's one of the things that I was pretty bad for. I mean, I'll still video my lifts and that, but you know, when I was not when I was starting out, but through the sort of first few years, you know, I wasn't in the moment enough. If that makes sense to you,
Totally.
you know. So you would then go and do your stone tour, and you'd be after it like that. Don't really remember much about that because I wasn't really in the moment, you know. So be
Yeah.
in the moment. Number four, be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to go into a gym and squat your lifetime personal best in the first attempt. So if you're thinking about going to lift a stone, that's, you know, be patient, go back to it. You get to go to, you're privileged and honoured to go to all these beautiful places. Just go back. If you've attempted it and you can't get the lift you desire, then go back. Number five, the most important one is don't be a cunt.
Oh, that's the best one. Us Canadians, our ears are burning. Yeah, no, I think those are all really good points. And you know, the one I thought that you would say and that you didn't, it's the me versus the stone.
I don't think that's a commandment. I
Oh,
think that
okay.
that should be something that's instilled in you from the start. But it's something that's lost a lot now because we're in a. I keep going back to social media. When in a sort of social media dominant society, you know, where people are posting to the gram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever it may be, YouTube, just trying to get, you know, hits on their stuff. But when you're in that environment, what you see on Facebook or what you see on the social media is all the success. You always see success. You see successful lifts. You very rarely see failure, you know, because people will just, you know, when they might have taken 10 attempts to get the stone to their chest or whatever, but you don't see the 10 attempts, do you? You only see the one. So what other people are seeing as that successful lift, and they're thinking, nah, I can do that, I can do better than that, I can do better than that. Whereas they're not in the mindset of, nah, it's just me. Can I lift this stone? Yes or no? It's me versus that object, you know? And that's the way it should be. That's fundamentals of stone lifting.
And you've done a whole bunch of me versus the stone. Iceland, Ireland, England, Scotland. And what would you say was one of the best experiences, like one of the most fundamental experiences stone lifting that you've had?
The best experience, well, there's a few. Obviously, I've done, you know, there's a lot of things that I'm kind of a creature of habit. So if I have a great time doing something, I'll repeat it. That's why
Okay.
I've been to Iceland 5 times. That's why I go to Dunnes every year. That's why I go to Eust every year. You know, that's why I've started going to England every year. And Ireland. You know, if I like something, I'll repeat it. So for me, there's always, you know, it's going to be the Husafell that comes to my mind
Yeah, of course.
because it's unique in a way that it's one of the most visual stones on social media. You know, on YouTube, for example, you go to YouTube, you type in Husafell, you know, I had watched hundreds of videos of folk lifting that stone before I was meant to go, and I'd been training like a monster, not specifically for that stone, but I was during COVID. I was training in a building site that had. It was basically a guy's garden, which was a bit like a building site, but he had Fells ranging from 100 kilos to this 325 kilogram monster. So I was just walking with that as part of COVID, you know, and I was ready to go. And then COVID happened, and I didn't get to go till later on. But when I finally got there, it was just me and Gail, and it's bizarre. You're walking up to it and you're going, "Fucking hell! I've seen that view 100 times on YouTube, and it's there right in front of you, you know." And it was intimidating, is what it was. Not because
Was
of
it?
the second stone, because it's not very big.
Yeah, I was
But
just going to say that. Was it smaller than you
there's
thought?
there's an aura about the place that I found quite intimidating the first time I was there. You know, because you start thinking about other people that have walked around there, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the ironic thing was, for me, even without training it, I knew I could walk around that. I could do the walk. The thing that was giving me nightmares was lifting the thing to my chest. I was like, because it's an awkward angle with that scoopy thing. I was like, oh, fuck, I'll never be able to lift that. But if I can't get it in my chest, I'm walking that, no bother. But I was like, oh, because it's an awkward height to train it as well. You'll laugh at how I came up with the idea for training the lifts. So I took the end off of an Olympic bar.
Yeah.
You know, the end bit of a weights bar, and I loaded it with plates. So I had it sitting in a box, which I thought was the height, about 18 inches, which I thought was the height where your hand would scoop under. And I was just trying to lift it and rock it back onto my legs. Like that, you know, with plates, like a stacked plate, if you like. It worked. It must have worked, because it worked. No bother.
I didn't see that on social media.
No,
I don't
I
think you
didn't put
posted
that on
that.
social media because it was embarrassing.
But this is so good. This is absolutely where I wanted to go to next, is about, and I know you say this all the time, but you don't believe training for stones is necessary, except for 3 lifts
Well,
that you do.
I
Which
wouldn't say
was
it was not necessary. It wasn't
okay.
necessary for me. The only stones I've ever trained for was the Dinny stones. But again, I was in a position where I was already strong. I knew I could lift them. I just had never used hook grip before. And I thought, man, I need to condition my thumbs, really. So I did 6 sessions in 3 weeks to train for the Dinny stones. And that was just to learn hook grip and get acclimatized to that sort of twisting motion, you know. So I did 6 sessions, and I went and lifted them. And I lifted them. And that, you know, that was it, really. The other one was the Husafell. Obviously, I was doing a lot of strongman at the time, so I was doing a lot of front carries. I was doing a lot of yoke carries. I was a carrying machine at the time, so I thought it was just a lift, you know. So I trained that ridiculous way to try and lift it for a couple of weeks, and I just told myself, "This isn't working, man. This isn't working," you know. But it did work. And what was the other one? Oh, yeah, the nickel stones. I trained for them as well. The walking stones, you know.
Yeah.
Because they were in the IHDF Stones of Strength, and this was way back in 2017, so they weren't publicly famous and everything. So I quite enjoyed that actually, that movement, because it was brutal and savage.
It is
I
brutal.
like that kind of thing, so I trained that for a wee bit. But in terms of the traditional stones, I've never ever trained for lifting stones out in the field, like to chest or shoulder or anything like that. Never, not once. I don't have stones. I don't have stones in any of the gyms that I train at. I've used sandbags and that, but more to do with sandbags come into the fray mainly because they were used in Scotland's Strongest Man and that, you know. So I was using them for that and things like that, and comps I was doing. So
I was talking to Derek Poundstone, Andy, and I think there was one other person that mentioned this, is that carries are like gold when it comes to stone lifting. What are your thoughts on that? And if you could recommend folks some of the key lifts, you know, that folks could use for the strength component to carry over into the stone lifting, what would it be?
any sort of front carry really. Are you mean in a gym environment?
Yeah, like
Well,
sandbags, like
for example, right, for training for the Husafell, I didn't use a Husafell. I used a Cerberus sandbag. In fact, I used Cerberus sandbags that were piled on top of each other. So I would have a 100 kilo sandbag sitting upright, with an 80 kilo sandbag sitting on top of that. And then I would lift it off a box or whatever and just walk with it, basically front carries. Upright sandbag carries. But nowadays you've got the Husafell bags and that now. I've never really used them, so can't really comment on that. But for me, a sandbag upright was perfect. It mimicked the movement pattern. And I wasn't clasping my hands, I was just like that all the time. Clasp your hands. You're never clasping your hands around the Husafell, really, unless you're after Beyonce or something. So, yeah, sandbags worked for me perfect. Zercher yoke carry is another good one. And,
mhm.
it's good for your core development and movement patterns that way. But keep it simple. I use the KISS theory in everything I do. Keep it simple, stupid. She's not laughing, she doesn't get it.
No, I'm
You need to explain it to her now.
exactly. No, the reason why I'm looking at you like that is because, yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things that you've said to me, I overcomplicate things. And I think we actually see that a lot on social media too,
Yeah, definitely.
about
100%.
overcomplicating stone lifting training. Why are we doing that, Jamie? Like what's going on there?
I think people just they get bored and they want to try new movement patterns or new exercises, or I'm always pretty old school, and I believe in the basics. You get the basics right, you're golden. There's no point in trying to reinvent the wheel. Basically, that's what I feel about it.
So this kind of links to another hot spicy topic: the use of historic stones in competition. Thoughts?
It's an absolute no.
Yeah.
The Huddersfield is the best example. That stone is going to break, and it's going to break because of the amount of obscene drops that it gets. I've dropped it. I'll put my hand up and say I've dropped it. It's hard to remain composed when you're dying inside because you've no breath left.
Mm.
And your legs are burning, and and I've dropped it then at that point. But when it's used in competition, well, you'll see, for example, Paddy Haynes done his 3 laps, which was, it's got to be one of the best lifts in history. But if you watch the end of it, it's a pin to a drop, it's a badging. So if that stone's getting dropped multiple times in competition like that, all it takes, as we saw with the Wallace Putting stone, is dropping onto something that's sticking at the ground, or, you can see when you go and you see the stone, you'll see that it's worn. You know, it's worn badly. You know, that stone's going to suffer a break, in my opinion, unless something's done.
And they wouldn't have Jamie McGregor to fix it.
Aye, I'm not bringing that back on me to fix.
Well, I was hoping I'd had Sticks and Stone on the show, and I was hoping that they could do somewhat like of a replica
Yeah,
during
they can make a replica. They can make a
right?
replica, but I think Magnus for Magnuson. In fact, and I'm going to guess. I think the Icelanders in general don't have the kind of same views as on the historic stones like we do in Scotland. You know, I don't know if they. I just get the feeling that they're not as impassioned about protection. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that he's been approached a few times about it, but has not shown any interest to change that that event for sure. So okay, so that was another hot topic. What other
It's not
hot
really a hot.
topic?
It's not really a hot topic. It's just an absolute no.
Yeah.
It's an absolute no, and that's it. And any historical stone lifter should be of that opinion.
Mhm.
You know, they've started using the Clara Galway stone in Ireland in some competitions and that. Nah, it's a no from me. Like,
Okay, so you've witnessed a lot of, you know, special moments, a ton of mine when it comes to historical stone lifting and or just even, you know, stone lifting in general. And you've been on 32 tours last year. What are some of the highlights? Like talk to me about some of the most amazing lifts that you've seen and whether it be for strength wise or just a personal best. This is the time to give shout outs to the
oh,
folks listening.
to be honest, Bex, I don't. There's that many, man.
Yeah.
You know, every stone tour has a highlight that. You
Yeah.
know, one of my highlights was Gail lifting the coming the stone tour. To be honest, and lifting.
Yeah.
You know, that's somebody that doesn't go to the gym, doesn't lift stones.
I don't do anything. I've not got time.
She doesn't do anything. She says she's got no time, but she's got hours of time. But anyway, so that was a highlight of a 60-year-old woman can do it.
You cheeky bastard.
We all know better, Gail. We all know better.
Well, no, all joking aside, if a nanny in her 50s can do it, then Andy can do it, you know? And they
Yeah.
should do it. So the things like that, the things like, I liked, obviously, when yourself, and I'm not being biased by saying it on this podcast, but when we placed the Innes stones, your reaction to the Innes stones, things like that were pretty priceless, you know?
That day was so bloody special. And anytime I see people lifting those stones, like I am getting a little misty here, but the location, the fact that I always have my foot in Scotland in stone lifting, the fact that you know, I don't think people understand what it takes to create these sites. Like, and this one was a short jaunt. Like we only had to go from the car park and up the hill with 3 of these stones. But there are others that you've placed, you know, that you've got to go over a mountain.
Aye, there's some of them that have been difficult.
Yeah. Like absolutely incredible. That was a very, very special moment for me for sure. And I can see why you like doing it. And I've spoke to of Sand and Stone, who has also created some locations. And what would your advice be to folks who want to create this and to make them? I think you had the 3 criteria, right? A
I
beautiful
think
stone.
the three criteria is important for me. Like, if it doesn't have any of those three, is it really worth it?
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. Set yourself a criteria, you know, and follow it. Some folk have suggested, there becomes a saturation point when there's too many. But I then think back to Peter Martin's research. Now, I've got a record of Peter Martin's work that I've got a list of 107 stones that Peter Martin had found, that only 30% of them were actually still there or available or found.
Mhm.
So, in that, when you look at it from that context, and Peter Martin believed that there was thousands, So when you look at it in that context, is it possible to saturate it? Is there too much of a good thing, maybe? I don't know. But that many, the way I look at it is, there's that many beautiful locations. I mean, I'm out in the Highlands all the time. I'm out in my car all the time. And I'm always looking about going, oh, you could place a stone here, or look at that view, that looks amazing, or, blah, 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 blah. There's tons of places in Scotland you could place, stones that have historical value or, just beauty, natural beauty.
But I mean, if you look at Ireland, like there's just so many stones, and they're around communities, right? And there's almost a stone per community. So I don't think there's a possibility for oversaturation. I think creating the architecture around it, like you've done, is really important. Whether
I think Sweden is probably a better
Oh, is it?
indicator. There's more stones in Sweden than it seems to be now than any other country. And historically speaking, that's for sure.
I'm kind of off at you about that, because you first mentioned going to Sweden next year, and I was like, I don't want to. I don't want
I
to go
want
to
to go on a
Sweden.
tiny stone tour.
Well, I started looking into it, and I'm like, oh, maybe I do want to go to Sweden.
I definitely want to. It's next up on my list. Well,
Yeah.
technically Wales is next up on my list, because I was supposed to go last year, but I ended up getting shoulder surgery and I couldn't make it. I organised a stone tour to Wales and then couldn't make it, and everybody else went.
So you've got, okay, now, I mean, Gail knows we're doing Iceland. You've got Sweden, Wales.
Sweden's in the future. I want to go to Sweden next. After I go back to Iceland with you, I'm definitely not going back. I said that this year. But because you want to lift the Hooser fella, I'll be a part of that and I'll go. It's not a bad thing having to go to Iceland, is it?
Oh my God.
So yeah, Sweden's in my plans, but Wales this year in the summer is definitely where I'm going to go, because I've been wanting to go there for ages. It's just never happened. I've just been too busy. And I'll do another round of the Scottish stones.
Of course.
And I'll do the modern stones that have been found a place down in England. I'm looking to do that as well. The look down there that Connor has placed. Connor Top.
Yeah, let's talk about what's on in England with Connor and all the work that he's doing. Him and I chat quite a bit.
Yeah, Connor
as well.
placed a lovely loop round Thilmere. It looks, I've not been obviously, but I'll be going there soon. Hopefully. I was meant to go on the 14th of this month, but the BBC's filming thing has taken off, so I had to postpone that.
So what do you, as we kind of like segue out of this episode, I just want to keep going, but for folks that are thinking of doing a tour, and specifically Scottish tour, what would your recommendations be to them for organizing it, for routes, for, advice, anything like that?
Well,
because I get a lot of messages about going to Scotland, and I usually refer them to you, but
well, if you go onto my website, right, so that's pretty complete in terms of the modern stones and the historic stones. In terms of route planning, you would use the map. Use the map there. Now we're at a place where we're at a place in the Scottish stone lifting where, there's loads of places linked together by stones on the map. So it's not very difficult to decipher a route location. However, what that comes down to is if you're willing to lift a mixture of historic and modern stones. You have to be open to that, I would say. In terms of logistics, just it depends where you're staying, really, you know.
Stirling, honest to God, Jamie, Stirling is where you need to stay.
Staying in Stirling is a great base because you're pretty central. You're in the central belt, what we call the central belt here. So you can really go anywhere from there, really.
Yeah.
And that's about the size of it, apart from the outliers.
Yeah, for those that want a great location, great views, I have the Airbnb that we stayed at. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that was down near the Wallace Monument.
Oh, like it's a repeat. I'm definitely going to stay there again. But it was a perfect location. And for us folks that are in Canada, like driving 3 hours to get groceries is kind of normal. So, you know, to drive up to Inverness is like nothing. But yes, I think Stirling is a great base for
Stirling or Perth, both very great bases for the Stones.
Yeah, I think Perth, I stayed there the first time.
I'm just thinking geographically.
Yeah. And then your car is like there's no non-negotiable. There's no way that you're getting to Stones.
No, you need a car. You'll know about the car hire prices. I don't know about the car hire prices here, but you certainly need a car. It's a non-negotiable, yeah. And for those of you that are planning and coming, just drop me a message. If I can go, I'll go with you. You know,
I know you will.
I don't charge for stone tours. It's not a business. It's a passion. I'll charge you lunch. You'll buy my lunch.
You might take two, but you might have to buy him 2 lunches. Although I've only had to buy him 1. Jamie is an amazing. I mean, he's taken me on most of mine. There's a few that I went without him, but you get the history. Some of these stones are really hard to get to. They're hard to find. And it's just, it's a really great day. Definitely hit him up. He's a really great guide, really great resource to go on.
Yeah,
tour.
I enjoy it, and I do particularly enjoy it when people come from abroad, because they kind of, in a way, it's a bit like a blank canvas, you know. So they might not know what to expect coming here, you know. So I have met up with a lot of people from abroad, whether it's Canada, America, you know, and further afield, France, whatever.
Yeah.
Enjoy that, you know, showing them the Scottish culture, the stone lifting culture, particularly.
So what would you, if you had to say for, top, 10 spots to stop, if you only have like a 2-day tour? Because I think you could do 10 stones at least in 2 days. What would you recommend?
My favourite location in Scotland is Durness, without a shadow of a doubt. Most people won't visit it because it's logistically challenging in terms of where you're staying and all that kind of thing. But that is definitely my number 1 location. It always has been. It's extremely remote. It's wild. It's raw. It's untouched, unspoiled. If you get a chance, you would combine that with the Dripping Cave stone.
Oh, I've never been to that one.
That's completely unique in respect of its landscape. It's a beautiful stone as well, very, very, very smooth. Yeah.
That's the one you have to use the rope, right?
No. The rope.
No.
You don't use the rope. The rope's behind it to get you into the cave. But
Okay.
the stone sits in front of the cave. But a wee hint and tip if you're going there, though, I didn't know this, but reach your hand inside the cave, you'll find a wee rubber mat for lifting the stone.
Perfect.
Because it's very, very rocky. But that is unique landscape, and it's an adventure getting to that stone. I used to ask Tom about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tom will listen to Tom's podcast. It's a whole segment about him crawling over.
You can combine the two over 2 separate days, because The Dritton Cave Stone is tide dependent. You need to look at the chronometer tide times to see if you can get there or not without getting drowned. Apparently. So I would recommend that. Obviously, the next one goes without saying. The Bear Van. You have to
Of
go.
course. Yeah, you have to.
The Bear
Yeah.
Van. The Bear Van is where me and Gail are getting married. In May. Me and Gail have been to the Bear Van lots of times. I've been to the Bear Van myself. I've lifted the Bear Van about 150 times or something like that. But I've been there that many times that there's always a unique atmosphere there. I can't put my hand on it. There's a peace and a calm there. You know, I've seen myself go there and fall asleep at the tree with just me and the dog. Well, it was our old dog, Cooper. We just sat in the sun and just fell asleep. You know, it's got a unique, you know yourself, it's got an atmosphere that can't be described very well. So that's a must do. In terms of the modern stones, there's a few modern stone sites that are just tremendous. But, oh, sorry, one more historic site that is probably one of the least visited is the Glenlivet. Now, the Glenlivet has so much history, it's steeped in history, that place. And when you're walking up the Smuggler's Trail to that stone, it harks back to the olden days of the Cattle Drovers Trail. You know, you get that feel about it. And it's just wonderful location in the Braes of Glenlivet. It's tremendous. I must see. It's a bit of an adventure to get there as well, but it's well worth it.
It's good.
In terms of the modern stones, there's quite a few that I like. I really like going to the ones that Andy and Michael placed. The Bowfiddle Rock. That was my idea, but they placed the stone there. I really love that. That is unique there. It's got a class feel to it. It's beautiful. Let me think. Obviously, I mentioned Loch Foyle earlier. Loch Foyle is just
Beautiful.
It's just beautiful, eh? It's just got so much. I'm going there tomorrow. We're doing filming for the documentary. It's a tremendous location. In fact, anywhere along that glen, I call it the Glen of Stones, Balquidder, because it's now got a lot of lifting stones in it. So yeah.
Can we just talk about the one stone that I want to lift that is like the in between heaven or whatever?
No, because this isn't about you. This is about me.
But don't we want people to see? To do the hike up to that one?
I'm actually, all joking aside, no, I'm going there tomorrow.
Are you?
It's called the Maitland Stone and the Anderson Stones.
Yes.
So the Maitland Stone's 127 kilos, and the Anderson Stone, I don't think we'll weigh it yet, but we'll weigh it tomorrow. So that sits at a place called Cairnanturich, which is, in history, it was believed it was the Clan MacLaren's rallying place. It's up in the hills above the Pewterach, you know, it's down in the ground. It's up in the cliff face, hidden by trees. So it's a 30-minute walk, but it's very, very steep. It's a bit of a cunt to get to it. But anyway, the view is just tremendous. And the thing I like about it, and I found it quite moving, is the story I told you about it being the thin place. So in history, they believed that Balquidder Glen was one of the closest places you could be to heaven in the world. So it had a lot of people coming to it. You know, religious people came to it because they believed they could be close to God in Balquidder. So I believe it's got a feel to it. Balquidder Glen does have a unique feel to it as well. But if you walk up to Cairn Turk, I believe you're the closest stone that you can lift to being the closest to God. Or be heaven, anyway.
How do you not want to lift that? Like, that is an amazing story.
Yeah, but we'll
And
be there tomorrow. I'll send you a picture.
why are you not doing the hike with me or what?
I'll do it with you. I love
Okay.
it. It's fun.
And who put those there?
The big one, Connor Stirling put it there, and Dean Harmon. They walked it.
Yeah.
They walked it up there, and a stone sheet. They sidestepped it the whole way up there. How they got it there, I have no idea. I got invited to take part in it, and I politely said I was busy. The Anderson stone was placed by Robin Wilde to remember her gran. So, yeah, it's not necessarily that place for me. It's not about the stones. The stones are a wee bonus, but it's about the landscape and about the view and about the thin place. It means something.
Yeah, so we've covered training. We've covered the itinerary. We're on like 2 hours now, and I can still chat your ear off. But this is what it's like in a stone tour. There's a lot of chatting back and forth.
Stone tours go on and on. Tomorrow's is going to be because they're going to have us doing multiple lifts for filming and purposes, and drones out, and they're having the GoPros in the car and all that. So we'll need to be polite. We'll have in my car. It's going to be me, Gail, John, Annan, and Wendy.
So
John
for the start.
And Wendy. So
and Wendy, yeah. Oh, that's great.
Good luck.
As we wrap this up, I just want to talk about the future of stone lifting and where you see it going, what it needs, and what it doesn't.
I fear for the future of stone lifting. Unfortunately, I think it's becoming saturated with people, saturated with different views, different reasons for lifting, and not everybody is singing off the same hymn sheet, so to speak. And I think that creates problems for the future because folk are pulling in different directions. Whereas we should collectively be together and be resolute in protection of the stones, really. The best tool we have for protecting the stone is teaching. I've said that from the start, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. But it can't be one man that's just teaching everybody. It's got to be the whole community that's teaching and preaching and calling out people that drop stones. And, if somebody drops a stone badly, I'll get an inbox full of that. Somebody will inbox me. I'll get 4 or 5 guys or folk messaging me. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this? I'm like, how have you no dealt with that? Why do I have to deal with it? Not that I wouldn't deal with it, but you get where I'm going with it. I think it's a collective. I think it's a collective. As a collective, there's not enough being done to teach proper etiquette and history, and I think that's our biggest tool in protecting the stones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said it to me the other day that, and I didn't view myself like this, but you did say, because I talked to you about an exchange I had, and you said, you're a keeper of the stones. Like you need to shut that down. Like,
if you lift the stones regularly and you're passionate about it, then you're a keeper. You're a protector of the stone. And that's it. So you need to step up. Everyone needs to step up, especially with the influx being so. I mean, in Ireland, for example, and in Wales, you're not getting an influx because it's still so new. Well, Ireland particularly, you're not getting the influx of people that you are getting in Scotland and in Wales. They've just got so few stones that they don't get a lot of people, so they don't have a big issue. But Scotland has a massive issue because it's got a massive influx of people. Whether it's because, there's a big sort of difference in range of stones so that they're accessible to more people, or, it's probably a number of factors really. But it's being felt in Scotland more than anywhere else, I would suggest, hence the breakages and things like that,
Yeah.
I mean, look at the plinth, the Pudrack plinth. That broke because of the amount of lifts it's had over the years, and it was just getting too much for it. It was getting too commonplace. Pudrack was probably for a number of years, it was the most commonly lifted stone in Scotland, or the most popular.
Yeah. And I'm actually, before I ask you for 3 pieces of advice, although I feel like you've been giving me advice and the rest of the viewers advice for
You
this.
didn't ask me for 3 pieces of advice because I gave you the 5 commandments. They're all included in that.
Okay, perfect. But actually, as we're talking about the Pudrack, I do want to speak a little bit about, and there was the origins of this, and it was the origins of this podcast, is that the unsung heroes of the stone community that often don't get recognized, but are huge keepers and caretakers, and I just wanted to talk about kind of some of the folks that may not be lifting the stones, but that are taking them, and specifically those at the Pudrack.
Well, I mean, what can we say? Anybody that's met Lindsay, Daniel and Ashley loves them, they've taken, they've now taken 3 stones, 2 stones that needed protection. So they're now the caretakers or the guardians of those stones, as well as the Pudrack. I don't think when they moved up here from England, they really appreciated what they were getting involved in. But by the same token, I think I know they absolutely love it, And barring probably, like they'll have had hundreds of visitors since they moved there. So they maybe had 2 or 3 sort of unsavoury incidents in that time. But I think they kind of understand that, that can happen,
Yeah, I mean, if you've been to the Pudrack, you know that you, and maybe it's not the same, and maybe it's just because of who I'm going with, but there's always a chat. There's sometimes like tea and cookies, and they're so beautiful, and
Yeah,
I think
they're warm people. They're fantastic. And yeah, there is. I mean, you look outside of them, there is unsung heroes, that don't get the recognition they deserve. Not just sort of Lindsay and Nigel and that, but there's others, but unfortunately there's others that have taken it a bit far. For an example of that would be, I believe, Billogie Estates. Treating the Dinnie stones as if they're their own, and locking them up, and so they're not readily accessible. I don't think that's their right to do that, but I've never thought that. Another example would be the new curator of the Menzies Castle, taking the stone away for the winter because he feels, he doesn't want people lifting it, which is fine. But another thing he's done is started asking for a donation before you lift. But it's not a donation if you're asking people that they must donate before you get a lift, I don't think that's right. But anyway, it's like everything else. There's good and bad,
Yeah, I mean that is definitely a can of worms, and like my mouth
Well, I
wants
might
to
get a
say,
can of worms, but that's just my opinion, and that's it.
yeah,
And nobody's going to change that. So
yeah. I
I've
mean,
always felt that way.
I don't think that you should have to pay to lift historic stones. Like, I think
No, I
that
don't think. I think if you had like a honesty box or something like that, when you said, you
Yeah.
know, any donations are greatly received, you know, to the upkeep of the castle, then I would put money in.
Yeah.
But now I'm not going there because I'm not going to be told, you must pay a tenner to lift a stone or whatever.
Hmm.
No, I'm just not going, and that's it.
Yeah.
Just don't think it's
And
right.
and so who are some of the other unsung heroes that you would mention?
Well, it's not so much keepers of the stones, perhaps, more
Yeah.
like historians, you know, and
Hmm.
people that are. Another one would be, let me think here,
Yeah.
What's that big egg stone that's in somebody's garden that we went to?
egg stone in somebody's garden that we went to.
Remember the
Was that in Stuart White's?
no, no, it was an older couple.
That was down in England.
Was that an England?
Aye. The Launton Egg.
Oh,
The
yes.
couple at the Launton Eggs are wonderful people as well, by the way. They were very, very enthused about, you know, having visitors there, and they've got their wee sign-in book. They've also got, they take photographs, and they've got a photo, you know, like a photo
Yeah.
collage and the dates of your lifts and everything, which is really good. They were really nice people. I liked going there. I liked the Launton Egg. I liked the North of England stones, you know. Um, Ironically enough, I think that was that was the first sort of rediscovered historic lifting stone in England, you know. So they've kind of took to that a bit like Lindsay and Nigel. Um, Another one would be it's not so much a person, it's more a community. The Invergary Village Hall have taken on board the Invergary lifting stone. And that's freely available to lift, you know.
Hmm.
That's an important one because that was one of the most sort of more recent rediscovered historic stones. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for ending on this note, because I think, it takes a village to to raise a stone, to protect the stone.
Yeah.
Uh,
What was it? What's the word that Julian used for describing everybody involved in the stone lifting? I forget then the word he used, but I liked it. I can't remember. I'm waffling now.
no,
But
no,
so yeah,
no, that's great.
it takes a lot of people.
It does.
But as for the stone, I'll just end on this by saying the stone lifting community needs to be more active in protection of the stones. And the way to do that is through teaching.
Hmm.
And when you're going to lift, you know, if you're going to lift, I don't know, you know, the Bear Band stone, research its history, pass on its history, write it down,
Hmm.
you know. Not, you don't have to do it every time. I mean, but just be mindful of it and, you know, try and pass it on. That's it. That's how history is passed on and not lost.
Well, that is an absolutely great way to end this episode. So, Jamie, thank you for taking the time today. We went way, way over the time
Yeah,
that we expected.
I'm
And
enjoying it.
Gail, thank you for
Oh,
for
no,
chiming in on the facts.
I'm on my second bin.
Oh, I cracked open a second myself. Jamie, I've really appreciated this. You have, I mean, I just kind of think of the lives that you've changed. I mean, I know how important you've been to my growth in so many ways, and I don't think a lot of people maybe recognize you as much for that you've done for the community. And I just wanted to take the opportunity, and I know, you're my coach, you're my friend, but you are a huge part of this community, a huge part of creating legacy. And I think that that's truly, you are leaving a legacy. And I am really glad to call you my coach and friend. And I cannot wait to see what other stone additions that you have and future trips that you take. And hopefully
Yeah.
Gail will get out there too. So
Well, she is. She's coming tomorrow. She's got her kilt look to it.
Hopefully she's lifting.
Aye, she's lifting, aye.
Good, good.
Aye. She's only doing
Awesome.
it because the TV cameras are on her, but
Well, wear an appropriate T-shirt. Do not wear the one that I
Oh,
left
we're all-
Jamie last time.
No.
we're all colour coded in McGregor Games
Oh.
t-shirt.
Excellent.
Okay.
We didn't even talk about the McGregor games.
I
That'll have to be
know.
on our.
We'll do that in another one.
Yeah, we'll do that another one. But thank you so much, Jamie. It's been an
Yeah.
absolute pleasure.
It's been a pleasure to come on it. I've been looking forward to it for ages. I think what you're doing is brilliant, and I think the fact that I think we spoke about it before, but the fact that it's you can have Morgan who's talking about rock sizes and different things, and then you've got like Derek Poundstone talking about his Louis the Searstone lift. To have that week, 1 week, and then the next week, that's what makes it special, is all the different sort of levels or layers for people. And you should just keep it going.
It's been great, and a huge impact that you've had there, and keeping it going. So, thank you so much, and I'll let you get on to your second or third gin.
Well, my phone's about to run out of battery anyway.
Okay. All right. Take care, Jamie.
Welcome to the Stone Table. This isn't a stage, it's a gathering place. Here, lifters of all kinds bring their stories. The heavy, the honest, and the hard-earned. Real voices, real weight. Shared like a good pour among friends. Recorded in Ontario, Canada, and open to lifters everywhere. Sláinte.